So the liar's dividend is in full force this week with an AI-generated video from a UFC fight. The craziest part is one of these two fighters actually won, and you can find tens of thousands of people online sharing clips with both of them winning. One is real, one is not. Hardly anybody knows. Look at this. Thank God somebody posted the real fight. In the surprisingly long history of hooking bugs up to electricity to control their behavior, we now have a new AI breakthrough. Cyborg Beetles will soon be revolutionizing urban search and rescue. So the race is now on to build an entire genome from scratch. AI is going to be playing a big role in this. Machine learning, technology, CRISPR. It's all coming together. Elon Musk can now pat himself on the back because Grok 4, even starting way behind OpenAI, has now caught up and surpassed by most of the benchmarks people measure this stuff by. Demis, Dario, Sam, and maybe even Jan LeCun, if he still works at Facebook, are probably doing one of these right now. How'd you let your lead slip? Tech billionaire Peter Thiel has an interesting twist on the Antichrist story.
The way the Antichrist would take over the world is you talk about Armageddon nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop.
We're getting pretty close to being able to shock the human brain into being good at math. There's a new artificial intelligence model that can read brain activity so well that it can now control individual finger movements. We're going to look into a study that talks about whether or not ChatGPT can actually see red, the color, or does it just know the word red, the color? Mark Zuckerberg has been on a hiring spree, poaching people from OpenAI, Google, and Apple. In Enrique Dan's recent post, he would argue that Zuckerberg's last stand is going to end in disaster. The New York Times is delving, oh no, that's gonna make me sound like an AI, diving into what it's like mentally for somebody applying for a job when they know that the interviewer is simply a chatbot powered by AI. A lot of companies are not growing their talent pool anymore because they're getting more efficiency out of adding AI to their current employees. Microsoft shared that because of internal AI, they have saved $500 million. And then we're going to look at some ways that maybe universities need to completely rethink what they do for people and why the next generation needs to be educated in a completely different way. So let's first go look at the AGI Countdown. Alan's conservative countdown to AGI is at 94% still. Wow, it has stayed there for a bit. I knew it. I knew there would be an update with Grok 4. It's always the big frontier models that push this thing around. So he kept it at 94, but wow, he is estimating Grok 4 to be around 5 trillion parameters trained on 80 trillion tokens. It's likely a mixture of experts model. Grok 4 heavy means multiple Grok 4 agents with tool use working together to answer the test questions. Interesting. All right, so took out Claude 4 Opus for the #1 spot on Vending Bench. The ludicrous rate of progress. Wow, yeah, Grok 2, 3 reasoning, and now 4. Wow, look at how much RL compute they're using now. So this is reinforcement compute. So if you think about a big warehouse full of GPUs, a data center, it used to be you just dumped in the whole internet and then you pre-trained, and then you did a little bit of tuning and then a little bit more of the tuning. And then you've got to write software that says, learn from these mistakes, or you have to have humans in the loop that actually give feedback and notes. And he's predicting it's all going to be RL soon. So he says no change to the AGI Countdown until further average human-like capabilities, for example, via embodiment with Tesla Optimus as referenced by XAI during launch. But let's start by talking about the sponsor of this video, LTX Studio. With this tool, you can create incredible AI video. It has the most modern models, including Google's complete game changer video with audio included model, VO3. You know, I've spent a lot of the last few videos just gawking over how realistic it is, how it crosses the uncanny valley, how entertaining you can make videos using it. So to add it with a scripting and a storyboarding tool, make something that is truly all of Hollywood in one place, that is what LTX Studio does. Check this out.
VO3 now in LTX.
All right, VO3 now in LTX, let's do it. Try the VO3 model by Google. Got it. Make me a video of a white rabbit with a purple bow tie podcasting from inside of a magician's hat. And look at him, he's inside of a little hat.
So today, we're we're going to be talking about the history of carrots.
That incredible generator is now inside of the best storyboarding tool that I know of. Here you can develop the concept, like White Rabbit gets a side gig working on a shampoo commercial, then boom, entire storyline can be built out. Frustrated with her daily carrot deliveries, she stumbles upon a casting call for a shampoo commercial. Perfect. An entire cast can be automatically generated. So thanks again to LTX Studio for sponsoring this video. There's a link in the description below. Okay, so we all know that VO3's model has that weird tendency at the end to just start laughing, which I sort of love when it's in the context of a podcast. What do you think of the Pikachu and Gorilla podcast?
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Honestly, bro, it's Pokeballs. Imagine getting sucked into a microwave. It's the fucking worst.
All right, so this is an AI channel that I've been experimenting with. I'm playing with mostly VO3 and LTX Studio to try to create a rabbit in the gig economy.
Bunny Squad, how do you pull a bunny from a hat? You rabbit. Ears out. Bunny Squad, this guy's hat smells really bad. Hey, Bunny Squad, prepping for a gig. It's a kiddo's birthday party, but like a huge one. Apparently the whole neighborhood is coming. Wish me luck. Good morning, Bunny Squad.
All right, you want to see a simulation of the universe? AI is definitely going to solve some really interesting questions about how the whole universe comes together. Okay, so what you're looking at here comes out of a Japanese research team. And they found that machine learning can outperform supercomputers when it comes to simulating galaxy evolution. Now, it's an AI model, so there's a hint of hallucinations. You can't call this 100% accurate like you might with a simulation that is actually done with a logical algorithm. But when testing, it's pretty close. And it can simulate a lot more and do it a lot faster. So it's a mix. It's supercomputers following certain logic and physics that have been built into the code, and it's a bit of AI simulation kind of filling in the gaps and helping optimize. But using them together, a simulation like this, which would have taken years of time on a supercomputer, was done in just months. And this AI enhanced model still accurately replicated critical galactic features like star formation and matter cycles. And the cool thing is that means we can maybe now soon simulate what it took to get to our planet and our sun and our solar system, which would teach us so much about the origins of all of this. And it's all thanks to a model that wasn't really trained on that much data. I mean, a lot of data in terms of every single time you put data about a supernova in a computer, it's a lot of data, but only 300 supernovas, and it learned this level of accuracy. Super impressive. All right, we'll talk about the UFC drama, and not really the normal drama like who punched who harder and stuff, but actually who won the match. All right, so I don't really follow UFC, so I'm not quite sure who these two guys are, but I'll tell you what, this guy on the left, he won the fight in real life. What you're looking at is a deep fake ending. And when you really sort of slow it down, you kind of catch a few things, but I definitely didn't catch it the first time. Thousands and thousands of people are not catching it. And then the other half are trolling. They know it's fake, but they're sending it to their friends being like, yo, check it out. He won the match, even though he didn't. And people are just believing it. Some of them are. Like the only happiness Charles fans are left with. Some fake win, 4,722 replies. Is it real? These fans are coping so hard, but much respect to Charles. Great fight. I mean, what if we all end up with our own outcomes at every NBA game and Super Bowl? I jumped out of my seat when I saw this. Another Charles KO for the highlight reel. And look at this guy. It is an AI video saying finally a non-AI video. The truth is there's people that believe the other video is now AI, which is kind of crazy. Hilarious, but also like only because it's fun and trolly and not anything serious, but holy cow. All right, so this is the future of Beetles. It is a zombie-like cyborg beetle controlled by AI, could revolutionize urban search and rescue. I think that's a stretch. You want a remote-controlled bug for whatever reason? I don't think it's because search and rescue, is that really the best use of cyborg beetles? I don't know. But like Ian Malcolm said, sometimes you're so preoccupied with whether you could, you never stop to think if you should. So University of Queens Island researchers are now turning darkling beetles into these little tiny cyborgs. They're zombies. I don't see much of a use case at all, but maybe somebody's gonna argue search and rescue. I don't know why you just don't use a drone with heat vision or whatever. Like, where's that bug gonna go that Any other kind of robotic form factor couldn't. Seems more like spying or military or scaring people. But these Beetles are equipped with a microchip backpack that gently stimulates their antennas or wings so that they can be remotely guided with video game controllers or artificial intelligence to crawl through tiny, chaotic spaces like a collapsing building, areas where conventional robots struggle. And the team is now working on adding cameras to a more compact battery so that this little Beetle can have a kind of secret hidden camera if it's a spying Beetle. I guess if it's a search and rescue Beetle, help you find the lost person. Aiming to make them more efficient scouts in disaster zones in 5 years. So Beetles can naturally climb walls and squeeze through tight rubble, feats that remain difficult for even the most advanced small-scale robots. So with their natural agility and then the robotic control, I guess this is the future of Beetles. Okay, so we have talked about genetics many times on this channel, and now we're going to start from scratch, maybe rebuild the human genome from nothing. So a group of scientists have launched an ambitious new project to build an entire human genome from scratch, something that has never been done. This is the Synthetic Human Genome Project, and it is building on advances in DNA synthesis that aim to construct a single human chromosome within the next 5 to 10 years. And that will lay the groundwork for eventually assembling a whole genome. And while gene editing right now lets researchers tweak existing DNA, this effort would allow them to custom build DNA sequences, potentially controlling nearly every aspect of the human body. Along the way, they plan to potentially unlock new therapies, get deeper insights into diseases, and even learn how to engineer new tissues and organs for people. But the fascinating thing is we finally have the potential to learn about that 98% of our genome, which is supposedly junk DNA, the so-called dark matter DNA. So if you're a basketball fan, you'll like this next one. A new study is bringing AI into the basketball court. The research centered on analyzing games involving the Chinese national basketball team and their international opponents. The study found multiple differences in foul patterns between the two sides. Chinese players, for instance, committed more fouls during opponents' shooting attempts. In contrast, their opponents were more likely to foul during dribbling plays. Then the AI system also tracked subcategories of fouls, such as illegal use of hands or player collisions, revealing behavioral traits that go far beyond standard box score statistics. So it's pretty interesting stuff. It's processing the game footage frame by frame. The system can pick up on even the most nuanced movements and contacts that even referees miss. But it's just different because it's not like a statistics tracking machine, even though I talk about it that way and it does that. It's starting to learn the game of basketball, how the players are positioned, what led up to the contact, at what time in the game contact's more likely to get called, what kind of referees referee in different ways. The level of insight that it's picking up is something that no human eye could consistently provide for calling a foul or for learning about the game, and it is wild. No longer do we need to worry about the human limits of perception, fatigue, and bias. Wow. All right, so I don't know what was going on with this Peter Thiel interview, but he is a very powerful person, and he's got the ear of a lot of powerful people. So it's worth listening to what he has to say.
You know, what do we do about AI? And we need global compute governance. We need, a one world government to control all the computers, log every single keystroke to make sure people don't program, a dangerous AI. And I've been wondering whether that's sort of going from, the frying pan into the fire. And so the atheist philosophical framing is one world or none. That was a short film that was put out by the Federation of American Scientists in the late 40s. It starts with a nuclear bomb blowing up the world. And obviously you need a one world government to stop it, one world or none. And the Christian framing, which in some ways is the same question, is Antichrist or Armageddon. You have the one world state of the Antichrist, or we're sleepwalking towards Armageddon. One world or none, Antichrist or Armageddon, on one level are the same question. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on this topic, but sort of one question is, and this was a plot hole in all these Antichrist books people wrote. How does the Antichrist take over the world? He gives these demonic, hypnotic speeches, and people just fall for it. And so it's this plot hole. It's this daemonium.
It's totally, it's implausible.
It's a very implausible plot hole.
Right.
But I think we have an answer to this plot hole. The way the Antichrist would take over the world is you talk about Armageddon nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop. And this is what you need to regulate. It's the opposite of the picture of Baconian science from the 17th, 18th century, where, you know, the Antichrist is like some evil tech genius, evil scientist who invents this machine to take over the world. People are way too scared for that. In our world, the thing that has political resonance is the opposite. The thing that has political resonance is we need to stop science. We need to just say stop to this. And this is where, yeah, I don't know, in the 17th century, I can imagine a Dr. Strangelove, Edward Teller type person taking over the world. In our world, it's far more likely to be Greta Thunberg.
What? Where that? I don't know what that Greta is. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about if a one-world totalitarian state is kind of inevitable, if that's the future that you think, or do you believe open source means that there'll be like a lot of counterweights and that sort of one-world totalitarian state doesn't take over? Do you connect that with the Antichrist? All right, let's talk about how you might soon become great at math without having to do much more than just stimulate your brain with electricity. I mean, I love that scene in The Matrix where you can just download new thoughts. So are we there? We're getting there. Singularity Hub writes, could electric brain stimulation make you better at math? Personalized brain-based tools may help learners left behind due to natural differences in how their brains work. So this is about a recent study. It's about a technology where you put electricity into the brain, but it's painless. You're on the outside of the skull. The brain stimulation method is called transcranial random noise stimulation, TRNS. And it turns out that it can significantly boost math learning in young adults, especially those with naturally weaker brain connectivity in math-related areas. The technique helps by gently enhancing underperforming neurons, making it easier for learners to reach cognitive activation needed for grasping mathematical concepts. So it doesn't so much supercharge top performers, but it does help close the learning gap, which is what makes it so promising for education equality. This won't help Einstein, but it will help me. Okay, so now let's look at technology going the other way. So your brain also has electrical signals that can be read from outside the brain. Now, when you have these robotic arms and hands that replace them, you can think about moving your fingers, but it's always been too coarse-grained. But amazingly, AI can start to make sense of what looks like nothing, what looks like nothing has signal in its noise, that the AI is starting to understand. So the system translates either actual or imagined finger movement into robotics and hand gestures. So it was tested on 21 experienced BCI users. It achieved an impressive 80.5% accuracy for 2-finger tasks and 60% for 3-finger tasks. And this all came from a scalp recording. The system required minimal training and fine-tuning, significantly improved the performance. The researchers also added their own little special sauce to this AI. It was a smoothing algorithm to enhance control stability. An analysis of people while they were doing it confirmed key roles for brain regions tied to motor and visual attention were detected. Instinctively, you'd be like, well, people who lost their hands can have a robotic hand, but then even if you have 2 hands, what if you just think about a third hand that's on your desktop or on a drone? But the fact that in this limited spatial resolution of an EEG, they can get that kind of detail means we're approaching something impressive. It was long thought that you needed invasive implants like Neuralink to get that kind of level of precision. But yet, here we are. So one of those deep philosophical questions you might ask your friend late at night is, how do we know that we're both seeing the same color blue or yellow or red? Because the weird thing is we kind of don't. So can ChatGPT actually see red? A new study shows that results are nuanced. Well, this is one of the most fascinating things to me is I imagine that if what's inside of ChatGPT is a bunch of vectors that represent tokens, and one of those tokens is the word red, its position in the latent space is all that it can know about the color red. Would think that it can't see red. But the more I seem to learn about language and AI and latent space, it does seem like everything being relative to everything else in this multidimensional space is the answer. And then the deeper you ask questions about reality, you find that most of reality is relative to other parts of reality. So I would have been surprised, but then papers like the Golden Gate Neuron made me think that there is some kind of bigger understanding of the world deep inside the learned model. And I guess drum roll please, it does seem like the answer to this question is that no, ChatGPT doesn't quite see color. So it can describe and categorize, it's not experiencing it firsthand. Deep down, even in the language, red is connected to certain symbolic things in our society, like emotions of love, cultural meaning. And you might say, well, does it know anything about cultural meaning or love? And there it kind of feels like some of the structure means that it knows more than just the position. Sometimes you line all these words up and then you go through them in a certain pattern, and what's emerging is something real. But at least according to this, I have to think that it's pretty much just tokens right now, and it doesn't experience red, it doesn't experience emotions. It does seem to understand planning in some ways, and it certainly knows and can talk in a way that's very impressive. You were surprised AI can do this much with language. All right, let's talk about this hiring spree Zuckerberg went on. He has now poached one of the most expensive people in the world. He picked Apple's head of AI and got him. Remember last week he poached 4 people from OpenAI. So compensation package was between tens to hundreds of millions of dollars. He led Apple's AI Foundation models team. From an OpenAI, he got a co-creator of the Vision Transformer, a couple other people in that group. More than a dozen others moved out of OpenAI. They were key contributors to OpenAI's O series and GPT-4o models. So Zuck's probably going to learn a bit about that. Got some people from Anthropic and Google's DeepMind. Feels like he might have spent $1 billion just on this talent recently. But in this opinion piece, Enrique Dans believes that this might all end in disaster. What exactly is he up to? In a nutshell, he's trying to rebuild Meta's AI strategy from the ruins of Llama 4. Its bogus open source model that failed to revolutionize the sector. Yikes. So the argument here is that throwing money at the situation is not the way to solve it. And Enrique paints this picture of a chaotic, ego-clashing environment with unclear chain of command, stratospheric salaries, and internal resentment. Rather than showcasing a vision, his move reeks of desperation, with Meta attempting its shortcut to the AGI race despite a history of broken promises, cultural dysfunction, and a leadership style that prioritizes flashy impact over thoughtful planning. If anyone's going to build a human brain digitally with artificial intelligence, it seems like it could be Zuckerberg. They have the information to understand people in a way nobody else does, even on Twitter. It's not the same history as Facebook had, where the original social network people uploaded their lives to, and then Instagram became the photo gallery for the world. So let's talk about people in the job market. There is a growing trend, unfortunately, that when you want to apply for a job, you end up talking to one of those crappy AI-powered chat assistants, and you spend an hour explaining details, who you are, why you want the job, doing the interview, getting tested. No human, no HR, no person. You can't always ask questions back. It has just canned answers, or, something like a large language model would give you, with lots of guardrails on it. But it judges your future, and it decides if you should get this money. Okay, so this argument is the AI can personalize a job candidate's interview. I do kind of like the idea of AI teaching in education. So I'm trying to get my head around it, but instinctively I don't like it. And they follow a couple people, so Jennifer Dunn, Charles Whitley, as they go and try to look for a job. And they find themselves talking to these AI avatars, sometimes named Alex or Eve, who ask a bunch of preset questions, but then they don't answer back meaningfully. And as you would expect, some of the experiences are kind of hollow, kind of even creepy. Some people like the lack of human pressure. You don't have to go in there with your suit on and kind of like wait for a human to kind of judge you on if they like you personally or if you're cool looking or whatever. Others don't like it because you can't really ask questions back. You can't really hold the company accountable through those same people that you're interacting with either. And I guess the weirdest part is that you might just spend so much of your time looking for a job, like doing AI interview after AI interview, and really all that they end up with is your data. You're training their model, just like every time we go through a CAPTCHA. And if they hire you and you work out, then that's data that's going to reinforce how they hire the next person. If they hire you and then fire you later, that's going to teach it to look for other patterns in what other candidates come. And those may or may not even be work related in some cases. So I don't know, good or bad, what do you think? AI generated applications for job interviews. You into it? You think it's good? Well, I know for some companies, having AI augment their employees is certainly increasing their bottom line. Microsoft shares that $500 million in savings they now have internally just days after cutting 9,000 jobs. We've talked about the hiring freeze by IBM before, which is really more just about let's keep the people we have employed, and then instead of scaling up over time, just letting them be more productive per person. I guess eventually you become so productive per person you have to downscale. But Microsoft's saying we just saved $500 million thanks to AI tools improving efficiency. Microsoft closed out the quarter with $26 billion in profit, $70 billion in revenue, and the company's market cap has now surged to $3.7 trillion, displacing Apple and trailing only Nvidia. Yeah, this announcement came shortly after the company laid off 9,000 workers. It doesn't seem like they care about programming and tech skills in the same level they used to. Obviously, these models that keep coming out are really good at helping people code. Big part of what these companies do is that. So it's a weird world. You have these people applying for jobs through AI. They're struggling. You find some of the AI researchers getting tens to $100 million bonuses for their top of the line AI work, and then you find companies downsizing and using the tools. This is the beginning of that big shift that we've thought about for the last few years. What is it like when there's just not that many jobs for people? And the companies that implement AI and technology start reaping just more and more money. So The Conversation wrote a piece called AI is driving down the price of knowledge. Universities have to rethink what they offer. So for a long time, universities worked off a simple idea. Knowledge was scarce. You paid for tuition, you showed up to lectures, you completed assignments, and eventually earned a credential. You end up with access to knowledge, and it signals to employers that you had invested time and effort into mastering something. So you're basically hireable. But it only worked because the supply curve for high quality information sat far to the left, meaning knowledge was scarce and the price, tuition, and wage premiums stayed high. But now the curve has shifted to the right on this graph below. And look, we're about to cross that old equilibrium, meaning universities are forced to rethink their value proposition. And with all that we saw about how hard some of the jobs can be with AI automating so many parts of the system, it seems clear that employers are responding way more quickly than the academic institutions. So do they need to turn around and start looking at uniquely human things to teach? I guess like empathy, maybe nursing, haircutting, stuff that's more kind of a trade jobs right now. Because the premium on basic knowledge is declining. A lot of the entry-level jobs are going away. Maybe educational institutions just need to pivot towards cultivating judgment, creativity, ethical reasoning, collaboration, and the other kind of skills that AI cannot so easily replace. So let me know in the comments below. Hit that join button if you want to support the channel, or head on over to patreon.com/DylanCurious, and we will see you in the next video.